High on the Tibetan plateau, where the air is thin and the wind howls like a banshee, lies a battlefield unlike any other. This is a place where nature itself seems to conspire against human presence, with temperatures plunging well below freezing and the oxygen levels so low that every breath feels like a struggle. Here, among the soaring peaks and glaciers of the Himalayas, two ancient civilizations, India and China, clash. These nations, with histories stretching back thousands of years, now find themselves locked in a modern-day standoff, their flags fluttering in the icy wind, a stark reminder of the geopolitical tensions that simmer beneath the surface. This is no ordinary conflict, no modern battlefield of drones and missiles. Instead, it is a brutal, primal struggle where technology takes a back seat to sheer human endurance and determination. The soldiers here are not just fighting the enemy, they are battling the elements, the altitude, and their own physical limits. This is a struggle for every inch of land, a test of wills fought hand to hand, where soldiers grapple in the biting cold, their weapons not rifles and grenades, but rocks and clubs. The harsh environment strips away the veneer of modern warfare, revealing the raw, unfiltered essence of combat, where survival hinges on strength, strategy, and sheer willpower. The world watches, holding its breath. News channels broadcast the latest developments, analysts debate the implications, and ordinary people thousands of miles away feel the ripple effects of this high-altitude standoff. The tension is palpable, a reminder of how interconnected our world has become. For this desolate landscape, this roof of the world, holds the potential not just for regional conflict, but for global catastrophe. The strategic importance of this area cannot be overstated. Control over these heights could shift the balance of power in the region, with far-reaching consequences. The stakes could not be higher. Every move, every decision made here is fraught with peril. The soldiers on the ground are acutely aware that their actions could trigger a chain reaction, leading to a broader conflict that could engulf the entire region and beyond. The lives of billions hang in the balance. In cities and towns across the globe, people go about their daily lives, often unaware of the fragile peace that teeters on the edge of a knife. Yet the outcome of this frozen battlefield could shape the future of our world in ways we can scarcely imagine. To understand this conflict, we must journey back in time, to the days of empire and exploration. For centuries, the Himalayas served as a natural barrier between the Tibetan and Indian worlds. Trade routes crisscrossed the high passes, but large-scale military confrontations were rare.
This changed with the arrival of the British in India. Seeking to secure their northern frontier, the British Raj began to push into the Himalayan foothills, drawing ever closer to the borders of Tibet, then under Chinese suzerainty. Treaties were signed, lines drawn on maps, but the complexities of geography and the ambitions of empires would soon collide in a maelstrom of violence and mistrust that resonates to this day.
At the heart of the conflict lie the ill-defined borders that snake their way across the Himalayas. Drawn by colonial cartographers with little regard for local realities, these lines on a map have become flashpoints for conflict. Both India and China claim vast swathes of territory, their claims often overlapping, their interpretations of history diverging sharply.
The McMahon Line, drawn by the British in 1914, remains a particular point of contention. India recognizes this line as the legitimate border, while China disputes its validity, leading to frequent standoffs and patrols that probe each other's defenses, testing the limits of resolve on both sides.
What makes this conflict all the more unusual, even anachronistic, is the agreed-upon absence of firearms. In 1996, India and China signed an agreement prohibiting the use of guns and explosives within 2 kilometers of the line of actual control, the de facto border.
This commitment to non-lethal force, while seemingly archaic, serves a strategic purpose. In the treacherous terrain of the Himalayas, a single gunshot could trigger an avalanche or landslide, with potentially devastating consequences for both sides.
Furthermore, the use of sticks and stones carries a powerful symbolism, a throwback to a more chivalrous age, a reminder that this is a conflict that both sides, at least officially, hope to resolve without resorting to all-out war.
The shadow of 1962. The spectre of the 1962 Sino-Indian War hangs heavy over the current standoff. That brief but treacherous conflict, which resulted in a humiliating defeat for India, left deep scars on the Indian psyche. It also highlighted the dangers of miscalculation and the ever-present potential for these border skirmishes to escalate into a wider conflagration.
The memory of 1962 serves as a constant reminder to both sides of the need for restraint, even as they engage in increasingly aggressive posturing and military buildups along the disputed border. The lessons of history, it seems, are etched not just in textbooks, but in the very landscape where this dangerous game of brinkmanship is being played out.
The Galwan incident. The fragile peace that has held, however uneasily for decades, was shattered in June 2020. In the Galwan Valley, a remote stretch of the LAC high in the Himalayas, Indian and Chinese troops clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand brawl. The fighting, which involved hundreds of soldiers on both sides, left at least 20 Indian soldiers unalived and an unknown number of Chinese casualties.
The Galwan incident, the most brutal clash between the two countries in over 5 decades, sent shockwaves through the region and beyond. It underscored the volatility of the border dispute and the ever-present potential for even seemingly minor incidents to spiral out of control.
In recent years, both India and China have embarked on ambitious infrastructure projects in the border regions. These projects are not just about building roads and bridges. They represent a strategic push to assert dominance and control over these contested areas. Roads, bridges and airfields have been built at a breakneck pace, transforming the once remote and inaccessible regions into hubs of activity. The speed and scale of these developments are unprecedented. These projects are driven by a potent mix of economic and strategic imperatives. On one hand, they aim to boost local economies by improving connectivity and access. On the other hand, they serve critical military purposes, enhancing the ability to mobilize troops and equipment swiftly. While these projects are ostensibly intended to improve the lives of local populations, providing them with better infrastructure and opportunities, the reality is more complex. They also serve a dual purpose, enhancing military mobility and reinforcing territorial claims. The new roads and bridges allow for the rapid deployment of military forces, which is crucial in these strategically sensitive areas. This infrastructure boom has, however, further raised the temperature along the LAC. The rapid development has not gone unnoticed and has led to increased tensions and suspicions between the two nations. Roads that allow for the rapid deployment of troops are seen as provocative, fueling suspicion and mistrust. Each side views the other's construction activities as a potential threat, leading to a cycle of action and reaction. Each new construction project is met with accusations of encroachment and bad faith, further complicating the already delicate situation. The infrastructure developments are often seen as unilateral moves to alter the status quo. These developments further complicate efforts to find a lasting solution to the border dispute. Diplomatic negotiations continue, but the rapid pace of construction and the strategic implications make it challenging to reach a consensus. The infrastructure race in these high-altitude regions is a clear reflection of the broader geopolitical contest between India and China. The ongoing standoff in the Himalayas is more than just a border dispute. It is a complex and multifaceted conflict that encompasses historical grievances, national pride, and strategic calculations. It is a high-stakes game of geopolitical chess, with both India and China vying for influence and dominance in a region of vital strategic importance. The stakes are incredibly high, and the moves made by each side are being watched closely by the entire world. The outcome of this contest will have profound implications, not just for the two Asian giants, but for the entire global order. The balance of power in Asia, and indeed the world, could shift dramatically based on the resolution of this conflict, but for the future of Asia and the world. The international community is keenly aware that the resolution of this standoff could set a precedent for how similar conflicts are handled in the future. For India, the stakes are existential. Failure to stand up to Chinese assertiveness would not only jeopardize its territorial integrity, but also its national identity and sovereignty. The Indian government is under immense pressure to demonstrate strength and resolve, but also undermine its credibility as a rising power and a counterweight to China's growing might. India's aspirations to be a major global player hinge on its ability to navigate this crisis successfully. For China, the stakes are no less high. Failure to secure its borders and assert its dominance in its own backyard would not only be a strategic setback, but also a blow to its national pride. The Chinese leadership is acutely aware of the domestic and international ramifications of appearing weak, would deal a blow to its prestige and potentially embolden rivals, both regional and global. The Chinese government is determined to project an image of strength and control, both to its own citizens and to the world at large. The outcome of this high-stakes game will reverberate far beyond the Himalayan peaks, influencing global geopolitics for years to come. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.